So I guess I start. We have everyone welcomed in, Anna? Right. Well, welcome back all. I am now have the privilege to talking to you about the organization of this afternoon. We will have two organizations presenting live to us for about 25 minutes each. We will then have a minute of stretching and a short break before we come back with any questions for our presenters and exchange between participants. There will be a short video from the other continents, about 5 minutes each, and workshops around what we have seen and heard. So you need to pay attention. So now we are very excited to have representatives from these two associations, Lupus Foundation of America and Chamsiduha Foundation, which means morning light in Indonesia. You will have two very different views of the world from them, very different views of what they need to do and how they do it. But in the end, it's all about you, about the people living with lupus. And now, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Jason Harris, who is Director of Public Policy for the Lupus Foundation of America, and Steve Gibson, who is President and CEO of the Lupus Foundation of America. We thank them for joining us early in the morning, where they're calling in from Washington, D.C. on this Thanksgiving weekend. Normally, they could still be in bed. They will talk to us about LFA, but also about the World Lupus Federation and their partnership with Lupus Europe. Okay, Jason, over to you, and Steve.
All right. Can everyone see my slides?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, Anne, and thank you to the whole team at Lupus Europe. It's great to be here. Great to be with you here on the East Coast in the States this morning, and really grateful that everyone could join us today as well. So I'm just going to kick things off for us and then turn it over to Steve. But here's a brief look at what we're going to talk about today. We'll start out looking at the impact of coronavirus and lupus on folks living in the United States. We'll talk a little bit about a new platform that we have for research, also go through the World Lupus Federation, and then just end with little thoughts on 2021. So with that, I'll turn this over to the Foundation's President and CEO, Steve Gibson. Steve, you're on mute. I can see that. You just got unmuted.
How's that? Is that better?
Yes,
okay, great. Well, thank you, Jason. And it's great to be with our colleagues throughout the world. I know that all of us have really had a tough, it's not even a year, but it feels like more than a year. And I'm sure some of the stories that we'll be sharing with you, you have similar responses, and excited to learn how you worked on this too. I mean, part of working with you is so that we can keep sharing information, because I don't think any of us should really have to reinvent the wheel in terms of information for our people with lupus and their families. And as we shared, it was a startling March for us all. And I'll kind of share a little bit about what we found first with when we did our survey for all of our people with lupus. And I'm sure, as you can imagine, people were very worried. We had no idea what to expect. I mean, I remember the first sort of words that hit the US, we were told not to wear masks, because if we wore masks, it would be hurting us and not helpful for us. So people were confused. People were confused, especially with an autoimmune condition like lupus. There was some discussion that because people with lupus are on HCQ or on Plaquenil, that they were sort of had a shield against COVID. So these are some of the kind of worries that we had when we had our first sort of survey. And we worked to try to address these worries throughout the year by really, highlighting, next slide, Jason. You can kind of see all the various challenges we had on, a lot of these came through our health education specialists. We have a team of about 5 people that are bilingual and could answer a lot of these questions. A lot of these concerns came through our network of chapters and support groups and advocates in all of our congressional districts. So you can kind of see the concerns that kind of were the whole gamut and actually continue right now throughout today. So next slide. What we did was to create specific pages about COVID on our website. And it's actually 300 plus pages now because we kept on updating it every single time. And you can see really the huge influx of people coming to our sites and coming to our network and asking the same questions. And we really found that this actually engaged our lupus warriors and engaged our organization to levels we've never ever seen before. And partly that was through, next slide, our social media that has incredible followings, and actually, we're able to expand. We use social media to also share not just words and Q&As, but actually have live speakers like Dr. Lim from Emory in Atlanta, Dr. Blazer from NYU. And we actually kept these up live, and they're still on our website to look at. And you can kind of see the discussion of how we learned along the way of how challenging COVID was and what we should really be doing, because things constantly kept on changing. Like we didn't know much about this disease, and things would sort of kind of just leak out. Well, one of the things that did happen that I think you all experienced too, I'm not sure the level of degree like we were, because our actually current president of the United States start talking about HCQ as being a cure for COVID. And this was very challenging because this then created a shortage throughout the whole United States. And we had to engage 6 different companies to see if we could speed up the production. We had to work with states because states were limiting it and kind of saving it and rationing it for COVID. And we had to really mount a big campaign, not only with people with lupus, but also with the Arthritis Foundation and ACR. And we were happy to say that we really engaged a lot of people with lupus on these activities. And this was everything from the White House task force. We were actually in discussions with a new company coming into the US of trying to kind of help with the stockpile that was going on so we could release some of it for people with lupus. We worked our congressional caucus. We worked also with CMS to relax legislation or restrictions around Part B, because one of our only other drugs here for lupus is a infusion drug. And then we also work closely with the FDA. Next slide. And this resulted in many, many, many letters and communications and emails and calls. Like I said before, it really brought together our entire lupus community and engaged like never before. We also found a new important advocate, Maya Harris, who is the sister of Vice President-elect Harris, who came forward for the first time ever to tell her story about lupus and how important HCQ was to her. And she became a critical advocate through all this as well. And we started this campaign, Without My HCQ, where it was huge on social media, huge through the various mediums, et cetera, and really kind of created a nice spotlight on people with lupus to understand what this is. And, through all these sort of discussions, I'm not sure it was always positive, but we had leaders talking about lupus, talking about this drug, talking about this legacy drug. So it was alarming for many of our people with lupus, but we really had some quick actions that created solutions that helped us go to the next step. As you can see on the next slide, it was that outreach to manufacturers. It was that working with the state boards and pharmacy plans and governors, because they were keeping a kind of a stop on sharing that, because we actually had stories of doctors prescribing HCQ for their friends and family, just to make sure if this was really the drug to save from COVID, that this could happen. So we created a state-by-state tracker to really monitor these things. We identified more online pharmacies. I'm not sure if you all know the geographics of the US, but we had, people with lupus in New York City working with people in California to get their HCQ. So 3,000 miles away, but we really had a good sort of network that made things work. And as you can see in our last survey we had, it really was incredible in terms of the issues that we were monitoring, the number of people that participated, the number of people who were taking HCQ. Some of the folks were actually telling us they had to sort of not take everything because they didn't want to be completely out. We were trying to make sure they didn't take half their doses, et cetera, because they were very worried about what might happen for a refill. And you can see the next slide, that impact of HCQ shortage, because the worry there was very, very alarming for all of us as we started to learn these things, and just showed you the panic that existed within the lupus community. So a lot of our support groups actually expanded, and we really wanted to be the comforter to hold the hand for anybody with lupus in their family and help them address this issue. We did have amazing stories, though, as I was mentioning in the press, that sort of talked about all these various issues, which, again, all news is good news in some respect. I would have rather had us receive more ink and air through other ways, because I kind of feel like things still haven't stopped since March, but things have been really at a high level of urgency for all people with lupus, et cetera. And to kind of share, it's something that not only impact our people with lupus, but impact our whole organization. I mean, we already had, next slide, Jason, a work from home policy. We have a lot of, not a lot, but we have snow days. I should say, we have a lot of snow days, but not a lot of snow. And so our staff was conditioned to work from home and work remote. We have people not all in our Washington, DC office, but throughout the US. Probably the biggest thing that was a huge challenge for us was that within a week, we had to decide, do we want to cancel our summit, our advocacy summit that went to the Hill, or do we want to find a plan B, which is to make it a virtual option? And within a week, we decided to make it a plan B. And we were already expecting the largest attendance ever to come to Washington, over 400 people from throughout the US. But our advocacy team really kind of was able to transform things quickly. And it evolved for a virtual conference that would have had about 400 people to close to 2,000 people. And you can see here the virtual look that we had the same speakers, had probably more engagement, because we followed up the next couple of days with our various Hill meetings. But it was, again, a tremendous success. And then going into our Lupus Awareness Month, which was in May, we've had the most engagement we've ever had. And we were super surprised because at this point, once March hit, we canceled all our live events. So normally we kick off our walk season, walk fundraisers in all the cities, New York, Washington, some of our biggest cities, we had to cancel them. So we had no idea what to expect for other activities that were online, but our lupus warriors and their families really stepped up, and we had to adjust our message and make sure people were safe. And if you wanted to do things in your own community, please be safe, wear your mask, etc. In fact, one of our actual takeaways was if you gave a certain amount of money, you would get a LFA mask to wear to protect yourselves. So, and the other thing that, we kind of adjusted, we've always had a lot of great outreach. When I first started as CEO, we partnered with Minor League Baseball for their Hispanic outreach program, so we could reach more people who are Hispanic, who had the symptoms of lupus. And we've started this working with churches and working with various support groups. Well, this year we decided to do a disparity study that could be more descriptive and include all the various regional studies that have been done already, would have one place. And you can see this is kind of our objective that we're just launching right now, but kind of came out of what we all experienced. There had been, like I said, a lot of work around some of these projects, but it wasn't a national scope. And our goal is to, once we get a better kind of handle on things nationally, is to help look at with our partners for an international spoke too, because I'm sure you all know we get tons and tons of questions from our partners on this. Okay, Jason.
Thanks, Steve. So hope that gave everyone a quick snapshot of what the year looked like for LFA, but also obviously folks living with lupus in the United States. You know, especially with respect to some of the medication issues that Steve mentioned. Obviously, we all have different systems, and you know, some have universal health care, and so some things are different in terms of how the access and things like that goes. So I'm curious to hear how things went for others. I know, you know, we've kept in touch with some of the folks on the line throughout the year of how things went, but still curious as things progress. So the second item we had for you all was this new platform the LFA just launched. It's called RAY, Research Accelerated by You. And I just wanted to give you a quick overview of what that is and what it looks like, because it's an exciting research effort that LFA has underwent, and it involves you know, a different technology partner that we have now. And so it's something we're excited for, because we hope it can help advance you know, knowledge in lupus and also accelerate lupus research. We know, I think we all know probably the different problems within the research paradigm for lupus. And so we see this platform or registry, as some may call it, as a way to help solve some of these problems. And so I think the unique thing and the really cool thing about what we're doing is this is all patient powered. So everything that comes into this platform will be from people living with lupus or caregivers, you know, the family partners. I'm talking about, you know, what's most important to me as a person living with lupus. What do I want to see in a treatment? What are the most impactful symptoms? You know, what are the problems I want to see solved? And so in order to sort of rebuild this platform and registry and take it to the next level, we had a committee that came together, notably, you know, persons with lupus and caregivers, some scientific academic leaders, and then some of our partners from the industry. So we came together about last year and a half, and later this October, last October, we launched. And here's some of the things, as I mentioned before, that we're collecting information on. And we'll get to some of the key items in a second, and I'll give you a preview of the platform. But we just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of this. Also want to hear feedback as we move through, because it's something that's an iterative process, and we know that you know, it's not going to be perfect the first time or the second time. So you know, thoughts are certainly welcomed. Here's a quick snapshot of what our dashboard looks like. You'll see the share your experience at the top left. That's where the core survey is, and so we'll have a number of other different resources that, after a person, you know, logs in and has their profile together, you can see at the top dashboard, insights, resources, and medications, and each of those will provide different tools for that person. Notably, here's just a little bit more about what things look like, so you can see where you are in the survey. And then when you are complete, you can sort of unlock other features within here that we're trying to gamify and make, you know, really make this something that folks want to come back to. And part of the reason we think folks will want to come back is because after you fill in your information, you can also take a look at where you are in comparison to other folks in here. Obviously, your information is completely, your privacy is of the utmost importance to the foundation, and it's something that, you know, as we started this effort, it was front and center for everything we did, because you know, if we're asking folks to provide some information about them, we want to make sure A, it's safe, B, if it is being used for research purposes, we're going to let you know, and you know, it's all transparent, and you can kind of see where you fit in the lupus spectrum. So here you'll see top symptoms, fatigue, probably not surprising to many, rises to the top, with some other areas. And then for medication use, Steve just went through the hydroxychloroquine issue that continues to evolve, and you'll see, you know, some medications too. I know these are in the potentially the American or the English version here, so they may be different across the board. But it's something really important that, you know, as we were building this, we wanted to make sure that the people that are going to be using it and the people that are going to get the most value out of it have to be people living with lupus. We obviously want to help the research efforts and different things. We're also underway in what the states we call value assessment, but I know many of you are more familiar with health technology assessment. It's something that we also see this platform as being able to help us as we move through a process like that in the states, but also looking at what coverage looks like down the line. So it's really an effort for this organization that I think using partnering with the lupus community to get this underway will have the most power and maximize the effect. So right now we are in the process of, we've just launched in October, and we are trying to let folks know it's available. And importantly too, this is, anyone can join from anywhere. We know, I know Lupus Europe, you guys run different surveys throughout the year. And so we just wanted to let folks know, and we have more information as maybe interested, but won't go into any more specifics there. But as I mentioned before, this is going to potentially be more global in scope, depending on who's interested. And that brings me to our next topic, which is the World Lupus Federation.
Thanks, Jason. And as you know, this is something that has been important to the Lupus Foundation for the last 5-6 years or so. And when I became CEO and brought some people on like Jason, we really wanted to kind of reinvigorate and emphasize kind of our goals here. To be more of just a convener and to be more of someone who shares information. We want to create a stronger voice among all people with lupus throughout the world, sort of raise the need for many of us, no matter where we are, for lupus and their, the patients with their caregivers, and to continue to do things like World Lupus Day, but really with the emphasis of sharing information and seeing how we can tackle problems together. And it's something that we are really delighted to be the convener of this as we go on the next couple of years, and open to many various ideas to help move this forward.
Awesome. So just a quick snapshot of what we did in 2020. First on that list, as you'll see, is a partnership we formed with Lupus Europe and a team on the line now. As Steve mentioned, LFA has been a convener of the World Lupus Federation for quite some time, but as we came in, we just wanted to sort of reconnect and see, times change. Obviously, where we are now is much different from where we were 10 years ago. And so we were able to get on the line and talk about World Lupus Day for this year in 2020, but Lupus Europe had put together some really great videos on low impact exercises as an important focus that they were using. So we thought, well, hey, let's get together here. And so we were able to partner together on a global survey that we put out, and the World Lupus Federation does that once a year in advance of World Lupus Day to obviously help maximize the importance and find some newsworthy information to go with World Lupus Day in May. And so we were able to do that. We were able to link to those videos, put together some social media images, again, put that survey together, translated the press release into a variety of different languages, thanks to some of the team members at WLF. And then again, just wanted to take this year to really reconnect and reestablish, why the Federation exists. I think we were all probably reminded very quickly with COVID and hydroxychloroquine, how that is an issue and global in nature. And so kind of a perfect example of why I know WLF exists, why Lupus Europe is so critical, and why we're all here today too. So here's just a quick snapshot of some of the images we put together. And originally too, and this is, just kind of, again, getting into the global in nature, but on the date side, we had a quick switch. So we made sure the month day was right for Europe. That was just a kind of a funny tidbit there. So next year, as we're looking ahead, what we want to do is we really want to understand better what World Lupus Federation members need. So we want to put out a needs assessment for organizations like those on the line now to understand, what tools or services, can we provide as the foundation and the convener to members. We're also looking at putting together a virtual global patient conference in the spring, which we hope many of you will have input on and be able to join us, and we can go over what more of that looks like in the Q&A or down the line. And then again, World Lupus Day is kind of the keystone event for this group, and we're going to continue that, and supplement it with another survey. I know that everyone has different lupus awareness months for your country. Ours is in May in the States, and kind of dovetails with World Lupus Day as well. But we want to make sure everyone is aware of the materials and things we'll put together, and partner with everyone to put together. And then lastly, we want to try and put more educational webinars or sessions together that may be helpful, whether that's topics about research, topics about advocacy, topics about you name it. We got a great team at the LFA and a lot of different partners. So as we hear feedback from different WLF members, we want to sort of put that information and then use that for different webinars. So I'm going to stop there for the Federation, and I think we're just running up on time, 2 minutes away. So I would just say thank you to everyone, and I'll kick this to Steve.
Thanks, Jason. And, as Jason was saying, we've got an amazing website, resource center. Feel free to work with us to translate any of the materials. Don't feel like you have to, recalculate or cut and paste. We'll give you the information to kind of share, to translate, et cetera. This has been a tough year for all of us, but I think if we really keep working together as we go forward, it can be easier and probably give us more hope for the future. I mean, one of the things that we're working on now is the FDA is meeting on December 10th to look at 6 potential therapies for COVID. And as we get that information that we're going to be sharing with our patients about things to use and how to access it, well, it might not be applicable complete to you. We'd be happy to share those informations too. So I think it's really important for us to work together, not only to share resources, but to really kind of give hope for the future as well.
Okay, that's it, is it?
Yes.
Right on time.
Yeah, it's impressive. Thank you both, Jason and Steve. And honestly, that was a fascinating presentation. And your phrase in the end there, hope for the future, is so apt. It feels very good knowing that ultimately we're all going to benefit from what you're doing, and then what we may actually do when we'll be doing together, perhaps.
Yes.
I'm so impressed by the scale of the problems you address and the scale of the actions you take. That room full of people was virtually, I've only ever seen that when I've attended IBM sessions, when IBM convenes the whole world, but that was very impressive. Interestingly enough, we actually did a survey similar to yours and came up with roughly about the HCQ shortages and came up with roughly the same results. So very interesting.
Amazing.
And you can talk with and we'll talk about that later on, certainly. I hope you will stay connected for the question and answer coming up later.
Absolutely.
And that you'll enjoy doing the exercises.
Sure,
So,
we want to learn from you too.
Well, thank you very much. But now I'm going to go over to presenting our next speakers. And I am very proud to present Diane Sharif, is chairperson, and Eko Pratomo, founder of the Shamsidua Foundation, which, as I said, means morning light, which I think is a beautiful name. Diane Sharif is a person living with lupus and with low vision. She is building a support system engaging the stakeholders to ensure the survival of people with lupus in Indonesia. They will talk about what they're doing differently in Indonesia for SLE. And so Dylan and Eko, over to you now.
Okay. Thank you, Anne. Now we want to share what we have done here in Indonesia before pandemic and during pandemic. The main issue in Indonesia for this pandemic is because we lost so many doctors and nurses here. So that's why we do crowdfunding to support them for the PPE, personal protective equipment, masks, and also we support other community in Indonesia to have enough protection for this COVID, for this pandemic period. That's the main issue. And also before that, we have done also the public campaign to people living with lupus to be very selective with using herbals, because many Indonesian loves using herbals, but not many herbals have been tested for its safety and also for its benefit. So I think that's the two main issues we would like to share for all of you. And at the end of the presentation, we'd also like to share our video during pandemic. Okay, Eko.
Yeah, thank you. And so I will help Dian to present what we have done here. And the reason why we present the activities before pandemics, because this also relate something that we expected to be done in 2020, but because of the pandemic, we could not proceed with this program. So basically, what we would like to share with you also, the foundation says try to promote research on existing Indonesian herbal, which is the Physalis angulata, as potential supplement for lupus patients. The backgrounds, because as Dian mentions, a lot of Indonesians really like and love herbal supplement, including lupus patients. The problem is with most of herbal supplement, they are the immunostimulants rather than the immunosuppressants, and that could be dangerous for the lupus patients. So we are triggered to find supplements which are safe and provide benefit for lupus patients. That's why SDF conducted SDF Award in 2017, and since then we are trying to fundraise to fund the preliminary research on the Indonesian herbal. So we have more than 3 candidates that could be proceed for the research. And among the several herbals, we have Physalis angulata was chosen to further research as preclinical trial. So SDF was partnering with the School of Pharmacy Bandung Institute of Technology and Faculty of Medicine di Pajajaran University to conduct this preclinical trial. And the result of this preclinical trial was promising, and report of this research was presented to the Indonesian FDA, the BPOM. And actually this year, actually the plan, the Physalis angulata plan to be further research as a clinical trial, which will be funded by the government. So unfortunately, because of the COVID, we have to postpone this project. We have also tried to have some educations, especially because of the unnecessary result from the herbals consumption. So we try to explain that the lupus patients, they have to be really
Selective.
careful and selective, and they have to consult with the doctors on using the herbal. So we did a lot of educations, and then informed that there will be clinical trial on the one of the herbal by the government. So this is one of the effort we did last year. And before the pandemic, we have done many campaign and education. So I just want to share with you some video, one video that we have done last year for the World Lupus Day. So hopefully this gives you some ideas on what we have done in Indonesia.
Terlukis pelangi di angkasa, garis dari segala penjuru warna. Mereka berbeda, mereka dalam harmoni. Kita semua adalah pelangi yang mewarnai indah cakrawala. Kita berpadu dalam sebuah harmoni, membangun cinta menuju kejayaan. Semua adalah pelangi yang mewarnai indah cakrawala. Kita berpadu dalam sebuah harmoni, membangun cinta menuju kedamaian. Dalam harmoni, dalam harmoni.
Okay. That's the video of World Lupus Day last year, which the theme is Go Healthy, Be Happy. So we would like to ask everybody to create their own happiness, no matter how hard the situation. And also we ask everybody to go green, go organic, go healthy, be happy. We did it in the forest, and also the free consultation also conducted with several doctors, and the doctors also were very happy when we asked them to do it outdoor. Okay.
Yeah, that was the activities last year, and during the pandemic this year, we try to present what are problems we are facing here in Indonesia and how we are trying to find the solution. So first is the medical problem. I think this has been becoming the public problem around the world, which is the barrier to have a direct consultations with the doctors. And both doctors and patients, they face the higher risk, for the pandemic of the COVID. What the solutions is, we help the doctors and the patients to have the teleconference through the online consultations, telemedicine, and we really suggest the patients to have the effective communications because of the online consultations. And we need to encourage patients to prepare completed medical data to be analyzed, so they can explain based on the data. The second thing is the availability of the general and specific drug. I think this is the same what we have heard from the LFA and our friends all over the world, the scarcity of the hydroxychloroquine. And we did the advocacy to the relevant government agency, the doctor associations, and the pharmacy company. And thanks God that we got the attention from the government, and we have an improvement on the availability of the drugs distribution requested.
Also controlling the price, because at that time the price increasing so rapidly.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And the third problem is the psychological aspect, which is because of the lockdown period, we have less activity, and that could create the stressful. And we help our friends for the psychological support through online sharing sessions with the psychologists. Also, we create some activities, sharing experience, maintaining communication with the similar support groups around Indonesia. And here are some sessions that we have created during the pandemic. A lot of things from involving many friends of the lupus patients, and they are very happy that we could still do some activities providing activities for them.
with different topics.
Yeah, yeah, we have the different topics like blessing behind the corona, and then friendship and solidarity among communities. We also talk about the entrepreneurship because a lot of people they have small businesses at home, and they are really influenced, and they have no
Affected.
income affected by the COVID. So this is try to create some other alternatives to have the source of income. Yeah. And this is about the psychological aspect. We have the gentle and mindful yoga for autoimmune. We have the anger management. We have also grow your own foods at home. Yeah. So a lot of activities online. Yeah.
We did this anger management session because a lot of people get stressed, and I think we have to do something to overcome this problem.
Yeah. And the fourth is, of course, the financial problem. Yeah, a lot of our friends they have less or losing income due to the pandemic, and we try to have some fundraising and try to have the financial aid to those in need, especially for buying drugs, because as Dian mentions, the shortage of the hydroxychloroquine and other lupus drug because of the pandemic and distributions affected, the price of drugs is increasing quite significant, and some of them cannot buy the drugs. And other things is encouraged to switch to become the entrepreneur. That's why we provide webinar training and partnership with the company. One of the company, cosmetic company, provide us to become kind of
Reseller.
the agent, and then we could
Get,
ask our friends to become the resellers. And it's good that they can do something differently. Yeah. And other things is this is regarding the general conditions, because everybody has chance and afraid of becoming catching by the COVID-19, especially lupus raises chances of catching COVID-19. So we promote for the healthy life, strong motivations to raise their immunity by basking, do exercise, taking supplement, healthy food, sleep well, and then follow the health protocol. And as mentioned earlier, we have done many activities for increasing the positive thinking, and then to have the balancing body, soul, and mind. And we try also to encourage the creative activities during pandemics at home. Try to have some hobbies, do what you like, and then be connected with friends and family. And thanks to the Zoom or Google Meet, that we can have a lot of activities together from with the online connections. The last one, we will share the activities during the pandemic. So hopefully this will give you some ideas on what we have done here in Indonesia.
this is about share our love.
Happiness is to spend the times away together with trial God sent us. Whoa, whoa. Reach out to reach what the future will hold. These challenges won't be standing in our way. Will not hinder us. Why be best friends together? We would share stories, discover reasons, express our grace. We extend our hopes, also reach our dream. Oh, always keep our courage and never drift away. Let's keep the faith, sure we can do. Together we can face this trial God sent us. Whoa. Let's embrace the world together. Our future so bright and wonderful. Let's hold hands and reach together. Our future full of promises. Woo!
Sahabat sekalian, mencuci tangan, memakai masker, dan menjaga jarak, hari ini kita lakukan dengan tepuk 3M. Are you ready? Yes. Tepuk 3M. Cuci tangan, pakai masker, jaga jarak. Okay. That's the end of our presentation. So we are very sad that we lost so many doctors here in Indonesia. The data from the Doctors Association shows we lost 200 doctors and nurses here. So we did this crowdfunding to support them. Also support the Indonesian non-invasive ventilator to distribute to the hospitals. So the situation is very sad, but we have to keep the spirit high, and so that's why we do this. And in the last part of our presentation, we also do campaign to remind everybody to wash their hand, self distancing, and also wearing mask. So that's all from us from Indonesia. Care for lupus. Your caring saves lives.
Oh,
you.
thank you. Thank you,
And
Diana and Eko. Thank you so much. I have a few words just to say, go healthy, be happy is so inspiring. You are so inspiring. And hopefully this is one virus we will catch, the share your love virus.
Yes.
It's hard to imagine that your organization seems to be involved in everything from research, webinar creation, medical education, buying ventilators, but also taking care of the whole person with music, yoga, cooking classes, sports. I saw anger management, but I don't believe that any of you look like you could ever get angry. So I'm not sure if you really use it. The scale of what you're doing is equally impressive. And honestly, it's so uplifting. You seem to have understood how to do community organizing, but on a countrywide scale. And honestly, we can benefit so much also by working with you. Thank you so much.
thank you,
Okay,
Anne.
and
Okay,
share
so
our love.
for all of us now and for our speakers, I hope, we are going to have 2-minute video of stretching, which Diana and Eko should really lead it. But anyway, we have 2 minutes of stretching, and then we'll have a 10-minute break. before we do a question and answer. And there have been so many questions and comments in the chat. So I do hope that all four of you, Jason, Steve, please come back for the discussion. Please come back for the discussion. My internet connection is having problems. So over to you, Zoe, I think. Or anyway, thank you.
And everybody turning their videos on, please. We want to see people move.
Thank you so much, everyone. Really great seeing you all so active. So we'll have a 10-minute break, and then we'll all meet back at 36 past. So see you all, and keep hanging on. We'll show you some videos while you're waiting.
Apologies, we seem to have just some technical difficulties for a second. We'll restart the video in a second. We break is finishing slowly. I think everybody's coming back. We'll just wait for another minute or so, perhaps.
So, Zoe, do you think everyone is back?
Yes, I think people have started coming back.
Yes, we can start again.
Okay. Well, thank you for those two wonderful presentations. There were a lot of reactions in the chat box. I don't think the presenters could see, but a lot of compliments and a lot of mentioning all the good things they saw in your interesting presentations. And now we will have a Q&A for about 20 minutes. That means that you can ask questions for the first 10 minutes to LFA and the second 10 minutes to Deanne and Echo. And I will be very strict in the 10 minutes. So if there are more questions than we can answer, we will be sure that we write them down and then find a way to answer your questions on further notice. So if you want to raise a question to Jason or to Steve, please unmute yourself or write the question in the chat. There was one question that was from Christian during the presentation, and I will ask that to you, Steve and Jason, as the first question. He asked that he's keen to understand how the Ray platform can be globalized, and can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So the Ray platform was based on a registry that we had at the LFA about 5 years before I came, but it was very small and limited in its scope. And that platform had about 10% of people who were international already. So now that we have a more robust kind of research engine, our hope is that we can kind of grow that. And I'm going to let Jason kind of talk more about details in terms of how we sort of market and promote that, and are open to, doing surveys and looking at specific questions via regions or countries. But Jason, do you want to continue?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's a great question and a really important point. As Steve mentioned, what we've done is we've taken something that was existing and turned this into a more sort of agile and dynamic platform. So, with that, we understand that as we've launched it here in October, there's going to be different upgrades, different additions that the community is going to want to see, that our partners are going to want to see, and we want to maximize the impact of this platform. So to your point about different reach, as Steve mentioned, we've already had a little bit of folks sort of finding us, but we do see this as an opportunity to start to expand. Obviously our focus is going to be pretty heavily on the US now, but with our partners outside, and if other folks are interested in promoting and understanding more about it, on top of, there's obviously language barriers, things like that with the actual surveys that we need to work through. So we're in those early stages, but we see this, as a foundation, as a really key effort, and something that can really permeate across the organization and the different priorities. So it's a little bit of a TBD in that sense, but it's something that we know is on the burner and we've talked about already. And obviously, thinking internationally, this is a great group to be with to discuss it. So leave it there for now.
Thank you for that. Maybe it's good to mention that because of the data protection in Europe, this might differ a little bit in Europe.
Yeah, so I will add that our technology partner, we have those types of details with data privacy and different security that goes on between US and Europe. And there's still differences for sure, but we have within that, we have a pretty good scope of what would have been possible. So we had a little bit of this in mind when we did it. With that said, I know that we don't know everything about things going on in Europe. So we know we're going to need to learn more.
That's a good addition. Thank you. Thank you very much. There are some other questions. One of the questions comes from Eldovina, and she asked, Dear Steve and Jason, can we use your website data in our local website? How it will be with copyrights?
Absolutely. And we'll share Jason's email address with you all, with the whole attendees, and we'd be happy to do that. And like I said, as long as you just basically give us some credit, we'll be able to give you the information in whatever format you would like, so that you don't have to cut and paste. If it's a PDF or whatever kind of form it's easy for you to assemble, we'll be happy to share.
Thank you very much for that answer. There's another question from Wendy Zaguris. Our healthcare system is so different in every country, I think. Are you working on the access of healthcare as well, or is lupus awareness your main goal?
Lupus awareness was our first goal, but we are working on those sort of issues that we'd like to tackle with you all. It's interesting. A year ago this month, I was at a conference with Alon and found that even within Europe, there were people who are having challenges in Eastern Europe for access versus Western Europe. So I think that's something that we should tackle together and be able to share information that we have and see how we might be able to use some of the advocacy techniques that we have perfected and others have perfected too. So I think that is a long-term goal for us to work together on some of these issues.
Thank you very much, Steve. Are there any other questions, not through the chat? Anne?
Yes, sorry, me again. So I wonder if you're doing any work on lupus and the COVID vaccines. If you're working on any communication, or you're working with doctors at all to see which ones might be working, might be usable by people living with lupus.
Absolutely. We've got right now a subcommittee with doctors working on that, trying to get information. I'm sure what you are all we're finding is that some of that information is hard to get, but we think that as it gets closer to that December 10th date I mentioned with our FDA, that we'll have more information around that. And also, we have a bigger issue here probably with access, and you might be able to get it all, and we will too, but how will that be prioritized? And that's something that's on the top of our radars, to make sure people with lupus are on the front end of that, because it's, very, very challenging, as you can imagine, having an autoimmune condition. But again, anything we kind of find and share, we'll be happy to promote. Something else we're working on is trying to bring together all of our lupus nephritis information into one corner or one area, with the hope that there might be more therapies for that. And we're going to probably see a lot more engagement with lupus nephritis patients.
Well, have you seen are you aware of any clinical trials for vaccines that have involved people with autoimmune diseases?
I have not. There's a registry that's, I think, international, that is out of St. Louis, that has shown some things. What some of the similarities that we've seen a lot have been how the two diseases mimic each other in terms of the symptoms and things of that nature. So I think there'll probably be more information about that soon. And some of the things that have been kind of shared anecdotally, I hate to kind of, promote, because it really hasn't been peer reviewed. And, I know in the US on COVID, there's been so many sort of tales about if you have a certain blood type, you're immune, or if you have a certain blood type, you're more exposed. And all of my science colleagues keep warning me not to say anything until we know for certain on things that are peer reviewed.
We can respect that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions to one of the speakers, Steve or Jason? We only have 4 minutes left, so. No more. I think I had another question. Let me see.
Yes, we had a question about Kamala Harris.
Did you have a question about that?
Just so her sister has lupus.
Yes, Maya Harris has lupus, and as I said, she reached out to us when the HCQ shortage was going on last spring, and not only became an advocate, became a donor. And so we hope that once the transition goes forward, we can partner with her sister, who has shared so many times about her sister having lupus, which is so amazing because a lot of times, you know, we saw, I was in a different healthcare space a number of years ago, and we were really hoping that Mrs. Obama would talk about her father who had MS. It never happened, but here we have a situation before she even takes office, talking about the challenges that people with lupus have in our own healthcare system has been a huge, huge awakening for a lot of people. And now people are talking about lupus, not just because of our current president using one of the therapies we have, but really talking about how we can be more proactive on helping people with lupus and their families.
So it's finally not just stars like Selena Gomez or Lady Gaga. Now it's somebody in the White House.
Yeah, well, and the other thing too is, you know, somebody in the White House not only has that sort of podium, but, you know, are there things that we can work on together, whether it's domestic or international, on how we might be able to work better? You know, the awareness thing is so important. And, you know, I look at probably celebrities a little bit different than you all do, not necessarily always in the positive space, but, you know, having a credible woman like Vice President-elect Harris is really, really powerful. She is actually my U.S. Senator. I'm from California, been our Attorney General, and she just gives a lot of credibility every time she speaks about an issue.
Well, thank you very much. There are a few more questions, but we reached the time. So we will go to the questions for Diane and Ico. And one of the questions that came through in the chat was, where can we find your materials? Ellen, could you unmute Diane and Echo?
Yes, please.
Yes, one of the questions that was asked was, where can we find your materials?
I think you mean the material of the presentation?
Yes, and I think also the materials you talked about, they're all on your website or?
Yeah, we will send to the Lupus Europe the material. So we have sent to Align, so you can, those who need can ask Alan to distribute.
Okay, thank you very much. And then another, there were a lot of notions about the nutrition you talked about. If you can explain a little bit more about that, how you are working on that, because it was very interesting, a lot of people thought.
Yeah, like nowadays, so many campaign about the healthy food, and also for the autoimmune suggested to do go organic and also gluten-free, some kind like that. This is a new thing in Indonesia, so we also do the campaign for that. And also the program Grow Your Own Food also suggests everybody to plant their vegetables in their home and more consume vegetables, fruits, and reduce the carbo. So goes to the healthier nutrition.
Thank you, Diane, for your answer. More questions for Diane or Echo?
I have one.
Okay,
So,
go ahead.
First of all, thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. It really looks great. What all the different things you're doing is amazing. So I'm thinking, with all these things you're doing, how do you manage to involve the entire community in the way that you do? How do you reach people?
Okay. This is because of our caring values. So we are very often ask everybody to care each other, and also not just among the patient, but also among the community, and also for our doctors, because here in Indonesia we are close with them also. So I think with this during the pandemic, we have to do share lots of love, and if you talk with your heart, it will create this caring. That's what we do here. So just open your heart and then talk with your heart, and then it will create the caring to each other.
Yeah, people will listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
at the we are trying to involve many peoples, including the students from the universities as a volunteers, and we ask them also to spread the news from the social media. And I think that yes, we have to do a lot of different activities that try to attract people on what we are doing here in our foundations.
Oh, you did great work. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, there's another question about the herbal supplement. Is that in addition to standard of care medication in the clinical trial?
Yeah, the herbal is a supplement. It's not a replacement of the standard treatment. So what we are trying to find here is, because again the backgrounds, because people is always trying to find additional supplement. We call it here jamu, which is available every small shops, but a lot of happening that people with lupus just consume some herbals which is not really good for lupus patients, because that lot of the herbals here is immunostimulant. So we are trying to give some alternatives rather than to try to to avoid them to use the herbal. So we talked with the government, and we did the first preclinical trial, and this could become an alternative for them to use the supplement. So it's a supplement, and it's not to replace the standard treatment.
Yeah. The important thing is we initiated to do this research, so we could say to everybody we have done it. So we also invite some universities to do also, and then pay attention to this issue, because when the first time we tried to find some reference in the several libraries, we couldn't find for this immunosuppressant. We only find the immunostimulants for the herbals, and for lupus patient we read the different way.
Elfriede, can I just add, I just wanted to ask, it was my question, with regard to that then, in the clinical trial, was a patient taking the supplement? What was the standard of care? Were they taking hydroxychloroquine at the same time, or were they, which drug were they taking at the same time to?
Yeah, for the clinical trial, this will be done. So we did the preclinical trial, and the clinical trial, the design is they will be the patients who are consuming the corticosteroid. Yeah. And I think that's a good thing to also include people with the hydroxychloroquine. And then we would like to see how the effect of this supplement in the next clinical trial. Yeah.
Thank you. That's really interesting.
Thank you very much. There's not one last question before our time is up, I think, and that's also about the nutrition and the supplement. The question is from Daniela, and she asks, the herb you mentioned, Visalis, you use it especially as an addition. What is its main function?
To overcome fatigue and also for anti-inflammation.
Okay, that's very clear. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you very much. So now we have reached the end of our Q&A session. Maybe it's very interesting for everyone to know that Diane and Echo are also the authors of My Friend Loopy, an initial book already translated in English, Dutch and French. If more people are interested, just ask us. Thank you very much for answering our questions so patiently. And maybe it's also good to mention that a lot of people have watched your presentations also on Facebook Live, and they find it very interesting and inspiring, and want to thank all the speakers for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I wanted to thank our co-presenters, you guys. Great job.
Thank you.
Don't leave yet.
Don't leave yet,
Yeah, no more.
because we are.
Jeanette has a request.
Okay, Jeanette.
Yes,
Sorry,
yes,
yeah.
let's do that first, yes. So I know we just told you guys to turn off your cameras. Could you please turn them back on? Because we would like to take a group photo. So please, everyone, cameras on. Who have them? Ready? Yeah, I know it's not possible for all, so ready? 1, 2, 3, smile. Thank you so much.
So, and now we can have the request to turn them off again because of the bandwidth. We have
You have to mute yourself again, Alfreda.
I'm sorry. Well, we have some more testimonials from around the world. So we would like to watch you with us messages from Mauritius, Russia, and Latin America.
Yes, first off, we will see a video from Mauritius by Dalila Kala. So, 1 second, here you are, enjoy.
Hello everyone, my name is Dalila and I'm from Mauritius. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey as a lupus patient and how since 20 years ago we've started an organization to help lupus patients in Mauritius. So growing up in the small island of Mauritius, I received the unexpected diagnosis of lupus at the young age of 13. The journey that followed was an arduous one filled with perseverance and survival. During this past 22 years, I have been overwhelmed with feeling of hopelessness. Prior to my diagnosis, I was a teenager full of life who was doing quite well at school, learning ballet and piano and participating in various activities. I think the hardest aspect of having lupus as a teen is the inevitable sense of isolation from the normal world. Living with lupus is challenging and disturbing from the moment of diagnosis. I think we all know that. There were times when my condition did not allow me to attend school, or pain and other physical restriction prevented me from participating in activities, in extracurricular activities. And that made me quite upset, and I was frustrated as my lupus constantly interfered with my attendance and my schoolwork performance. I was frightened, angry, and depressed. But I have to say that without the support of my mother, I wouldn't be where I am. She actually made me realize that living a life paralyzed with fear was not living at all. So gradually, I had to accommodate my life to this dreadful disease, to adjust to the impact of strong daily medication and resolve stress, pain, depression, and fatigue. I did that by actually being more open with my friends, my teachers, my other co-sufferers, but also the health professional. And this actually has helped me with this disease, and in my daily battle, and I have been able to reduce those feelings of isolation and desperation. That experience actually prompted me to help other lupus patients by simply creating awareness. I felt that it was very important for me to create awareness. For me, it became my priority to actually educate others and raise consciousness about lupus and other autoimmune diseases in Mauritius. So as a patient, I was actually the one who I represented, obviously, the gender likely to develop lupus, but I am also now the spokesperson generating awareness around the island, and I'm passionate about it. My goal has been so far to ensure that all the work achieved ultimately benefit every individual affected by lupus, but also other autoimmune diseases. In 2000, actually, my mother, Babs, who some of you might know, and I founded Lupus Alert, which is a non-profit organization in Mauritius. And our aim is really to provide the moral, emotional, and sometimes financial support to people living with lupus, as well as spreading awareness of the disease to the public. We are also trying to look into, in terms of research initiatives, especially in Africa. The great thing is that we've been able to partner with other lupus organizations around the world, and this is a great thing. And we're all working together to create that worldwide recognition for lupus and to educate people around the world about the disease and other autoimmune diseases. So yeah, lupus was unheard in Mauritius until basically I came out into sharing my story with the public. The impact, the awareness, the education, understanding, the clinical support, the research, the pain, the frustration, and in many other terms are what I've learned throughout the years when I was engaging in the lupus battle. By providing a network of support for patients throughout the island, I have been able to reach out to patients and their families and teach them how to cope with lupus. And one of the biggest challenge of Lupus Alert was actually to create an aggressive lupus awareness among health professionals. A general practitioner is not likely to be familiar with the complexity of the presentation and therapeutic challenges and dilemmas of lupus. In Mauritius, it has actually been quite difficult to make the health authority here recognize lupus as a significant public health issue. The lack of understanding and ignorance by the government and medical community of the needs, both physically and morally, of lupus patients have proved really to be demoralizing and frustrating, leading to sometimes disease complication and loss of life. So numerous of our patients had gone detected, undiagnosed, with very bad consequences, such as disease gone untreated, therefore aggravating mental distress, anguish of the families faced with uncertainty of diagnosis, the mounting of expenses in medical fees. So now I can say that more health professionals are aware, and more more people dare to ask their doctor whether the patient is suffering from lupus, and this has helped in the diagnosis and a better prognosis as well of the disease. I personally think that the mutual confidence between the physician and the patients has improved and proved to be, for me, a large element of ineffectiveness and economy of the healthcare. Throughout our campaign, we have been able to create like a synergy, which today respond to the needs of those who are affected by the illness. For example, the drugs for the treatment of lupus are free of charge at the local hospital. Our patient also receive a disability living allowance, and that helps a lot for the patient. Sorry. So like I said, by really raising my voice and for my work as a campaigner of lupus in Mauritius, I have actually put the disease on the map in this country, but also in the island of the Indian Ocean. This has strengthened the links between the islands, like I said, in the region, the African neighboring countries as well. That has helped a lot, and we now have contacts in Africa, which is great. We're corresponding with patients, which is great. We have been able to provide assistance with these countries as well. Some of the islands, for example, have been able to create their own organization, which is fantastic. We also have a nice lupus center on the island, and we have a library and like a resource center as well, where which is used by our members, by our health professionals, but also medical students. My passion, I have to mention that as well, my passion makes me a source of support for other lupus patients and their families. And it's good, I mean, it's a good thing because my work in a way has been recognized. Where in 2011 I have been awarded the GCI 10 Outstanding Young Person of the World. This is a great, I mean, it's still obviously a humble achievement, but for me it was very important because I was able to put again lupus in the public eye, but on an international level, and I think that's very, very important. So I guess for us, the next step is really to continue enhancing the progress of made in creating the local awareness about the disease. Continue to keep contact with the African continent and try and see how we can engage in research. Obviously, you know, by doing that, we will be strengthening the position of Lupus Alert as a beacon of hope and support for the entire community of lupus patients in Mauritius and beyond. Fantastic opportunity to share this video with you. I hope I'm gonna see you guys very soon. But there you go. That's my small video, and like I said, never lose hope. Continue to smile, and let's continue to fight. Thank you. Bye bye.
So thank you so much to Dalila for making this very great video. I think the ones of us who know her know that she's really a force of nature, and she does a lot of great work. Now we're going to meet 5 Russian ladies who actually also do a lot of wonderful work. So this is Natalia, Anna, Tatiana, and Julia, and another Tatiana. So let's hear from the ladies.
Hello from Russia. A simple calculation shows that the 5 of us combined will have had lupus for 50 years. Amazing, isn't it? Impressive, isn't it?
It never occurred to us that one day we'd wake up sick and life would never be the same.
Each of us has moved from denial to acceptance. Now for me, lupus is not just a disease. It has become a certain way of life, a kind of a philosophy.
I vividly remember this day when doctor told me that lupus chooses the bravest and strongest, and now I understand what he meant. We know what pain is when every inch of your body hurts. We know what despair is when therapy doesn't work and test results are getting worse. We know what hatred is when you look in the mirror and no longer recognize yourself because of cheek fat, panic attacks, hair loss, gained weight.
We know what it is to take medicines with serious side effects, but it's even worse not to take them.
And no one will give you any forecasts, any guarantees. Only thing that is clear is that this problem is with you forever.
The modern world dictates its own rules. Be strong, be beautiful, be successful. But in our stark reality, we have to make plans bearing in mind that something could go wrong. You may not have enough strength, time, resources. We learn to understand that some things are beyond our control, and we learn to be flexible.
It's so easy and natural to take care of your family, friends, your home, but it's much more difficult to notice your own needs. We need more sleep, we have to be on a diet, do a lot of tests, we have to take medication and often have a part-time job.
We need psychological help. I believe it's an important thing of treatment of lupus. Unfortunately, in Russia, people have not realized this yet, and it's so difficult to get this help from qualified specialists for free.
All too often people say, hey, you don't look sick, you are too young to be sick. My autoimmune disease may not always be visible to everyone, and unfortunately, many people will never understand how exhausting it is to live with the symptoms, to fight your symptoms every day, every single day trying to look good and to feel good. Your age is also irrelevant. Just because you're young or look good doesn't mean that you're fine, that you're healthy. Therefore, we have to fight for our rights. We have to fight for disability allowance, for medicines, for high-tech medical aid. During the COVID-19 pandemic, many of us have encountered problems with medicines becoming unobtainable, hospitals closed, your doctor unavailable, and we get into a panic when we think that we may also get infected.
A doctor plays a huge role in the life of patients with lupus. The help of qualified rheumatologists is vitally important. Today, in Russia, there is an acute shortage of such specialists. It's hard to find a good doctor who can be trusted and who will believe in us.
I would also like to notice the role of patients' organizations in Russia and around the world. Thanks to those, we can support each other, exchange experiences, learn about the current trends and approach to the lupus treatment. We can just be closer to people who understand us like no one else. YOLARP supports the development of European patients' organizations, which support people with rheumatic diseases. On the national level, many of them provide a variety of services for patients, self-help, psychological groups, information, events with specialists, and social programs.
I don't like these questions. Why me? Why did this happen to me? I ask myself, what else can I do? And it's a choice. And every day I choose the most precious things I have. My biggest gift, my life, despite, notwithstanding, thanks to lupus.
Again, I think a wonderful and strong presentation. So thank you to the strong women from Russia for doing this. And now I want to share the last video with you guys. It's a lot of moving around. So, 1 second. And here you go.
Hello, Lupus Europe. I'm very glad and thankful to have this chance to share with you the reality of lupus in my continent. I'm a huge fan of Eurovision Song Contest, and now I'm feeling like a contestant in this Eurovision Song Contest with you as my jury. I'm not a patient. I'm the brother of a young girl with lupus and when she was diagnosed, I met Lupus Chile. That was at the year of 2010, and well, here I'm still here at 2020. My name is Gonzalo Tobar Carrizo, and I'm gonna share with you the reality of lupus in Latin America. First of all, I want you to know about Latin America. I think that if all of you close your eyes and think about Latin America, you might be thinking in Mexican tequila or Brazilian caipirinha, Easter Island, Galapagos Island, Mayan pyramids, Machu Picchu, Patagonia, Caribbean Sea, Carnaval de Rio de Janeiro, and much more. And yes, we live in a beautiful continent with these remarkable landscapes, but the truth is living here is much more difficult than these beautiful sceneries. When we talk about Latin America, we are talking about 20 or more countries, everyone with its own characteristics. Latin America is a land of important inequalities, social inequalities and economic inequalities. This we can see it in service, public and private service, such as the access to natural resources, essential goods, and especially in health service. For example, in Santiago de Chile, some people live with the per capita income of some wealthy countries such as Norway or Sweden. But in the same city, another people live with the income of poor countries like the Congo. That happens in all Latin America when we have in Argentina these villas miserias, misery village. In Brazil, we have these favelas. And in Chile, we have tumas or campamentos. And all of these show us the poverty of the people living here. To close this point, I must say that we have no kind of common law or a common system such as the European Union. Every country has their own way to drive its reality. That means that every country has their own health system with its own coverage system. Some countries have coverage for all its citizens for a lot of disease, and other countries have only coverage for a group of people or a group of disease. So we have difference inside each country and difference between our countries. One thing we have in common in Latin American countries is a terrible social and political disease, the centralism. There is a common saying here that says, God lives and works in our capital cities. So, our capitals are very big cities with an important population. For example, in my country, Santiago has around the 40% of people living in Chile. In Peru, Lima has around the 30% of people living in Peru. This is not just a thing about people living together in one city, but also is a big problem. Some services in our countries are available only in the capital cities. Therefore, people from other places in my country or in Latin American countries must go to the capital cities for multiple reasons. Talking about lupus, very much patients have to pay flight tickets, bus tickets, train tickets, hotels, and spend some time in our capital cities to have a correct diagnosis, a second opinion, and more. Sometimes patients and their families have to travel around thousands of kilometers to have a medical appointment. Even more, in some cases, families have to move to capital cities to live there and to be close to the health service they need. The COVID-19 pandemic has shown us some problems for lupus patients. In Mexico, for example, there are problems with sales of fake hydroxychloroquine. In Peru, the government still uses the hydroxychloroquine for COVID-19 patients, leaving lupus patients without the access or chances to buy it because the price is now 4 times more expensive than before the pandemic. In El Salvador, a country with more than 6 million people and around 2,000 lupus patients, and with only 18 rheumatologists, lupus patients don't have their medicines or their medical appointments since March. And in Venezuela, a country with a political crisis for some years, only the 5% of rheumatic patients have their medicines. Only the 5%. The other 95% of rheumatic patients is living by miracle. After all of these negative points, I have some good news. Almost every country in Latin America speaks Spanish, except for Brazil, where they speak Portuguese, but Brazil is like a continent itself, and some islands in the Caribbean Sea where they speak French or Dutch. Our language is one of the main stones to build ASUPAN, the Pan American Network of Rheumatologic Patients Association. We are more than 50 organizations, where some of them are from lupus. In ASUPAN, we work with PANLAR, the Pan American League of Association for Rheumatology, the EULAR of Latin America. Our language is a huge opportunity for us, and that's how we have taken it. This year, during the pandemic of COVID-19, we made the first step to have a community for national lupus patients groups. We have met each other, shared our realities, our activities, our challenges, and common points of view. Every time one of us has an activity online, we can attend it because, as Ivy said, we talk the same language. I can attend a Mexican webinar about lupus, a Dominican Instagram live about lupus, or I can be a speaker in a Latin American online meeting because we all talk the same language. The challenge now for us is to create our own Lupus Latin America umbrella organization, but at least we are already working on it. So, before to say goodbye, I want to thank again this chance. Muito obrigado. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Grazie mille. Dankeschön. And as a huge fan of Eurovision Song Contest, I have to say that my 12 points go to Lupus Europe. Congratulations, guys, for all the work you have made, and you are a great inspiration for all of us in Latin America. Thank you very much, and see you soon. Goodbye.
So thank you so much to Gonzalo, who was here at one point. I don't know if you're here still, but it was really a great video. So Zoe, I think
Yes.
it's your turn. Yeah.
We will be switching off our Facebook Live in a few seconds, and we will then be split into 3 breakout rooms where we will have a brief 15-minute discussion. We ask you to think at what idea that you heard inspires you to do something differently. Do you have any ideas for the issues that have been mentioned? Discuss that amongst ourselves in the breakout rooms. We will then return to the main room and share the results with the group. Before we go offline on Facebook, just to say that tomorrow morning at 10:30 CET, which is Paris time, we will be back on live stream with Professor Arnaud's talk on a panorama of lupus care in 2020.